Fusion Mobile, quality e-learning experience on the go.
Concern for one's nation continued. Faith in God. Reconstruction of the nation in the face of opposition. King Cyrus of Persia made a proclamation throughout his kingdom that the Lord God charged him to build him a house in Jerusalem. He then ordered all the people of the Lord to go down to Judah to take part in the rebuilding of the Lord's house, the God of Israel. He ordered that the people of Israel should be assisted by the men of the place where they were with vessels of silver, with gold and goods, with beasts, apart from the free will offering for the house of God in Jerusalem. The heads of the fathers' houses of Judah and Benjamin, priests and the Levites, those whom the Spirit of God had stirred, were prepared to go up to Jerusalem to rebuild the house of the Lord. Cyrus himself brought out the vessels of the house of the Lord, which were carried away during the deportation by Nebuchadnezzar: 1,000 basins of gold, 1,000 basins of silver, 29 censers, 30 bowls of gold, 2,410 bowls of silver, and 1,000 other vessels. All these were brought out. The people of Israel in exile went back with them to Jerusalem. The people of Israel in exile went back with them to Jerusalem. When the adversaries of Judah heard that the people of Israel, who had returned from exile, were rebuilding a temple to the Lord, they requested Zerubbabel and heads of fathers' houses that they should be allowed to join in the building of the temple, because they also worshipped God. The people of Israel refused their request and wanted to act according to the instruction of King Cyrus. When they refused, the inhabitants made the work impossible for them throughout the reign of King Cyrus, until the reign of King Darius of Persia. Then Rehum the commander and Shimshai the scribe wrote a letter to Artaxerxes the king, persuading him to stop the men of Judah from rebuilding the city. They reported that the Jews who returned from exile were rebuilding the religious and wicked city. They had finished the walls and were repairing the foundations, that if they were allowed to complete the work, they would stop paying tribute, custom, or toll, and the royal revenue would be impaired. It would mean the king's loss of his possession in the province beyond the river. It would mean the king's loss of his possession in the province beyond the river. The king Artaxerxes replied Rehum, the commander of Shimshai, the scribe, and the associates in Samaria, assuring them that the contents of their letter had been read before him. He told them that he had made some search and found out, as they said from the record, that the city had been rebellious and there had been sedition there. So he made a decree prohibiting them from rebuilding the city. When the king's reply was read before the men, they rushed to the men of Judah and forced them to stop the work, and the work stopped. Responsibility to our nation, Nigeria. Political and economic stability, spiritual reawakening, etc. That's the responsibility we owe to our nation, Nigeria. The command to worship King Nebuchadnezzar's image. Responsibility to our nation, Nigeria. Political and economic stability, spiritual reawakening, obedience to constituted authorities. The command to worship King Nebuchadnezzar's image. Nebuchadnezzar the king. The command to worship King Nebuchadnezzar's image. Command to worship King Nebuchadnezzar's image. Nebuchadnezzar the king made an image of gold and set it up in the plain of Dura in the province of Babylon. King Nebuchadnezzar sent words to gather all the people to come to the dedication of the image that he had set up. Then they were instructed to fall down. King Nebuchadnezzar sent words to gather all the people to come to the dedication of the image that he had set up. When all the people had gathered, he instructed them to fall down and worship the image whenever they hear the sound of music, and that anyone who refuses to worship the image will be cast into a burning fiery furnace at once. The people did as they were commanded. Every time they heard the sound of the music, they all fell down and worshipped the image Nebuchadnezzar set up. Refusal of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego to worship the king's image. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego refused to worship the image the king had set up, and they were reported to the king Nebuchadnezzar. Nebuchadnezzar got very angry and summoned Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. When Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego came before the king asked them, "Is it true that 3 of you have refused to worship the golden image that I have set up and instructed everyone to worship?" King Nebuchadnezzar gave them a second chance and told them that if they failed to worship the image this time, they will be cast into the burning fiery furnace, and he will see if the God that they serve would deliver them. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego said to him, "If you throw us into the burning fiery furnace, the God whom we serve will deliver us. And even if the God that we serve doesn't deliver us from your burning fiery furnace, we will still not worship that image. And if the God that we serve doesn't deliver us from your burning fiery furnace, we will still not worship the image that you have set up." Punishment for the refusal and God's deliverance. Nebuchadnezzar became more angry and ordered that the burning fiery furnace should be heated up 7 times, such that it would be really hot. He further commanded that the mighty men that were there should bind Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego and then cast them into the burning fiery furnace. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were bound and cast into the burning fiery furnace. Because of how hot the burning fiery furnace was after being hit 7 times, the Bible records that the mighty men that even threw Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego there were almost slew, or rather, they were slew by the flame of the fire. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego fell down bound into the midst of the burning fiery furnace. The next thing Nebuchadnezzar saw astonished him. He stood up quickly and said to his counselors, "Didn't we put 3 men bound into the burning fiery furnace?" And they answered and said, "Yes, O king, we put only 3 men into the burning fiery furnace." Nebuchadnezzar said, "But I can see 4 men, and they are not even bound, they are loose, and they are walking in the midst of the fire. They are not even hurt, and the 4th man there looks like the Son of God." Nebuchadnezzar went closer and said, "Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, servants of the Most High God, come forth." Then Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego came forth. All the people there saw the wonders of God. Nebuchadnezzar then said, "Blessed be the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who has sent his angel and delivered his servants that trusted in him and decided not to serve." Nebuchadnezzar then said, "Blessed be the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who has sent his angel and delivered his servants that trusted in him." His servants that decided not to serve or worship any god except their own God. Therefore I make a decree that everybody who speaks evil or says anything against the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego will be cut in pieces, and their houses shall be made a dunghill, because there is no other God that can deliver like the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Effect of their faith and courage on the people, that is the Babylonians and the Jews. The effect of the faith of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego on the people was their faith and courage won souls for God, as we saw from King Nebuchadnezzar after he saw the deliverance and ordered that the only God that should be worshipped should be the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, because he is the effect of their faith and courage on the people. Their faith and courage won souls for God, as the king himself had to make another decree that superseded the former decree he made, which is that the only God that should be worshipped and served, is the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, because of how he delivered Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego from the burning fiery furnace.